Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions in the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sometimes sports. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been checking out all our episodes on YouTube and recently on iTunes as we transfer over to Libsyn. So thank you. A lot of downloads coming in. So I'm really excited for my guest this morning. We are with actor, you see him as Sam Stein on Marvel's The Punisher on Netflix. We're with Michael Nathanson. Michael, welcome to Popternative.
Good morning. Good morning, Peter. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, first off, just like to get it in, what made you decide that you wanted to go into acting and film and television? Was there a specific movie that kind of made you realize, oh wow, this is the type of stuff I want to do? How did you get into that field?
I'd say as a kid, I'm a lifelong film geek for sure. And even at a super young age, I was into movies and TV and comic books and all sorts of I was devouring media. And Star Wars was obviously my first sort of foray into oh wow, imagination, screen imagination and being, part of that sort of a world of, oh wow, I want to be on that screen someday doing that kind of stuff. And, I ran, and Indiana Jones too. And I ran around making costumes for myself, pretending I was Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Indiana Jones for the first 10 years of my life. So I think I was always sort of in that zone of wanting to pretend and be those people and jump on screen. And, I studied theater. I did some theater in high school. And as a kid, I was a professional actor for about a year. And then when I was 12, and it got in the way of all of my extracurricular activities. So I decided I wanted to be a regular kid. Went to drama school, and I actually went to school to study writing and directing, and then was sort of bored with it. Didn't really know why I was studying it, and got into acting in college, and kind of the rest is history. But in terms of influences, I've been into the great filmmakers, the great auteur filmmakers my whole life, like Kubrick and Hitchcock and Truffaut and Spielberg and all those movies. And I think I've just it's always been in me. I've fought it because it's not an easy life, but I sort of been under my skin the whole time.
No, for sure. And I mentioned it. You are Sam Stein on The Punisher on Netflix, Marvel's The Punisher. Congrats on that. It's incredible just to see how Marvel is just pumping out show after show on Netflix. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. They do a great job, and I think the shows get better and better. Or I should say, they're still experimenting with the format of those TV shows, and they're being daring about it, because I think they could have been complacent. They could have just sort of kept the Daredevil model, and I think they've gone off into different directions using lots of different filmmakers and writers. And it's a really cool universe to be a part of. I never thought I'd be part of a Marvel universe. That's just kind of an insane opportunity as for any actor to sort of, oh, you're now going to be this sort of you're immediately part of the iconography of this world, and it's weird, but I'm really proud to be on one of those TV shows, because it really is. I think it's really cutting edge, and I think it's taking this sort of dark edge of comics that I like to the screen, and I think those adaptations are just super awesome.
The one thing sorry.
No.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. The one thing I like talking about on the show is kind of these shifts. We talk about it a lot, when we have more digital media-centric shows, we talk about kind of the shift from, digital media 10 years ago to digital media now. Or, for example, what I find really interesting I want to talk to you about is a great time for television. The last 5 years has been, or even 10 years, it's just been unbelievable for television. The amount of shows, the amount of content out there, it's out of this world. When you have kids that grow up and they ask them what they want to do when they grow up, they're going to say, oh, I want to be a movie star. I feel like now you're going to have, oh, what do you want to do when you grow up? Oh, I want to be a TV star. I want to be on these big shows. Don't you find that shift kind of interesting, where television is now not necessarily secondary anymore to film? It's like its own realm of amazing. Like it's just amazing to see.
Yeah, I think the majority of that has to do with technology and has to do with the readiness of technology. And from the rise of the internet to stream, and how streaming has sort of become this have it at any moment, at anywhere, anytime. I think people's lives are such that it's hard to make plans and go to the movies. And I think that's I'm actually not a proponent of like this whole we should just stay home and watch movies on a tiny phone or on a screen at home. Like I love going to the movies. Going to the movies is important. It's important to like sit in a room with a tribe and commune about ideas and thoughts and images, and it's an amazing experience. So that I hope that never goes away. But I think the rise of television is so you have this. I think you have this technology that is fantastic because it creates all of this wonderful content, and it allows filmmakers and producers and writers and actors to create a lot of stuff that I think that in the past they wouldn't have been able to because of budgets.
Yep.
It's because of time, because of the platform of a movie where you have to four-wall a movie, and the cost of that, the cost of theaters and running a theater and getting the movie out there and the promotion and all of that stuff, it was cost prohibitive. But now with streaming services, there's all this great opportunity for content with all these platforms. So I think, it's a combination of factors of technology, of price, of the economy, and all these things. And I think we're benefiting from it. I just hope, like I said, that we don't lose that sense of like going to a movie theater. I think there is something to be said watching something with strangers, as annoying as strangers could be in a movie theater. But it's created so much amazing content. And yeah, I mean, for me, for sure, like all the great filmmakers that I love are doing TV. I mean, the TV show I did before this, The Nick, Steven Soderbergh was one of my favorite directors in the whole world. And growing up, one of my favorite directors, and who knew he would go and want to do a TV show? And so he did, and I got to be on that too. So, I mean, you can, as an actor, I think there's so many opportunities, so many great people. It doesn't even matter the medium anymore.
But your concept of the tribe, I think, of like going to a movie, the communal aspect, I think it's still there, even if like for example, Stranger Things.
Now it's on social media. Now it's on social media.
Yeah, but also like Stranger Things. Do you know how many watch parties there were? There were probably like thousands of watch parties.
Yeah, and also I don't know if you looked this up on my bio or anything, but I'm a director with this company called BBQ Films, and we're a company that does immersive, interactive shows, movie shows, where we'll screen a movie, but you'll come in costume. We'll create a whole storyline around the movie. We did Back to the Future, where we recreated Enchantment Under the Sea dance, and then Marty from Back to the Future 2 came in, and so that we involved time travel, and we did a Ghostbusters themed event, which was called Ghostbusters HQ, where we essentially created Ghostbusters 3. We worked with Sony to promote their movie, but we also created kind of our own version, our own alternate timeline of Ghostbusters 3, where Oscar, the baby from Ghostbusters 2, got to grow up and form his own franchise in Brooklyn, and people got to come and train and experience. We had a ghost containment unit, and we had all sorts of fun stuff, and I helped write and create some of the shows. And it's so I believe that there are other ways to do it. So I think that it's not all about being in a movie theater. I love that those of us who work in both film and television and the immersive sort of theater and film world, I think there are a lot of opportunities these days to form that tribe. And I agree. I mean, I think I just wouldn't want to lose. There's something about a big screen too,
Yeah, no, for sure.
A watch party is cool, but like, and again, I mean, I think there should be a place for both. But yeah, I mean, like, look, man, I bought my tickets to Last Jedi. What was it, like the minute they came out? I was waiting on the internet, and I'm so excited Thursday night to be like in a line in a theater with like 1,000 crazy fans. I'm sure this time around it'll be very dissimilar from 2 years ago, where a lot of them will probably recognize me and be like, "Hey, that's Sam Stein from Punisher."
Yeah.
Which is even cooler. I'll be there with my, my Star Wars accoutrement. I have to decide what toys I'm going to bring with me. But that experience, like that movie opening event, I mean, when we were kids, like, and when Batman first came out, or like, I remember when like Dick Tracy came out and I was a little kid, and I was like, oh my God, like those sort of event movies, they're fewer and farther between. And I think Star Wars reminds us like what the power of like the movies and the movie theaters can do. And
100%. I love the sounds. Like I was talking to my mom about it. I was just saying like the one thing about the Star Wars movies is, for me, going to see them in the theater, the sounds are worth everything.
And also, like, just that moment when there's the Lucasfilm comes on, and then there's that silence. There's that, it goes to black for, like, just too long, because you know it's coming, and they, like, milk that anticipation. And then the, bah, then a long time ago, and then that, psh, and that cheering.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't get that at a watch party. You don't get that at home. You don't get it on your phone. So for me, it's like, yeah, it kind of brings it all back home for me.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills just talking about it. I got tickets for Thursday and Friday.
Oh, wow. I'm going to see. I remember when the last one came out, before this one, not Rogue One, the one before that. Yeah, I went to go, like, I went to see that the first week, and it was crazy. Like, I think it came out the Friday, I went on a Sunday, I think. It was nuts. It was just like, it was really cool to be a part of. And now that you say that, I think about it, yeah, going to the theater, the sounds, the crowd, that's a really good, it's true. No, it's, I feel like everyone's going to watch this, and everyone's going to be like, oh man, now I got to go to movies way more than I used to. You're doing it well.
I mean, I got a couple of writing projects that I'm working on. I got a feature that I'm developing, and I also have a TV pilot that I'm developing. So it's like, I believe in both mediums, but I have this feature script that I've been developing for a while that I co-wrote, and I'll be helping to produce, and also going to be in. And we're talking to producers and financiers and going through that whole sort of process. But like, a lot of people have said to me, oh, well, do you think it could be a TV show? And like, could it be one of these miniseries? Could it be a Netflix show? And could it be this? And I was like, yeah, but anything could be anything. But this is a self-contained story that I told, and I like the idea of creating a movie that you would have to go to the movie theater and watch with a bunch of people and like have this experience. And that's kind of how we formed it and wrote it. And at the same time, having a TV project too. Like, sorry, there's construction going on in my building, so are they coming? Someone's coming for me. The TV police are coming for me. Anyway, no. So it's, yeah, man. Like, I think there needs to be room for both, and I think it's just a cost prohibitive industry when it comes to film, and I think it's starting to swing the other way. You see more great independent film coming out. You see a lot of people taking more chances, smaller movies, cheaper movies coming out in the theaters and making a mark. So hopefully it'll improve. And a lot of these theaters, like Alamo, Draft House, I'm happy to do a major plug for them because I absolutely love the Alamo Draft House. They built one in Brooklyn. It was last year, 2 years ago. We were always jealous in New York. There were all these cool immersive movie theaters all over the country, and we never had one. There's a great one called Nighthawk, actually, in Williamsburg, which is cool too. But these theaters where you can get food and you can get booze, and they have like tie-ins, and they have old school movies they play. Like, I went to see a 70 millimeter print, original 1982 print of The Thing, the Carpenter's The Thing, at the Alamo Draft House. Like, you can't see that at home. Like, that's so I think when these theaters are like doing that too, and they sort of remember, they remind you of that nostalgia, they remind you why you go to the movies in the first place. Mm-hmm. I think it's important. So
I'm over here in Ottawa, Ontario, the capital of Canada. We have the Mayfair Theater, and they're known for doing a lot of those special events where like they showed The Room, and people showed up and
throwing things at the screen.
Yeah, like the spoons and all that. And then the thing that they do is they do like the Saturday morning cartoons where they just play like completely like old from the 80s and 90s cartoons with the commercials and everything, and they have an all-you-can-eat cereal buffet. So people show up in their PJs with their cereal.
That's what I'm talking about, That's cool. Like that, I'm totally into that stuff, and I think theaters and like these kind of, they're getting more innovative with stuff like that. But again, like, people are showing up because why? Like, they could easily do that at home. They could watch cartoons at home. They could watch it on their phones. They could watch it on their TV. But like, they want to have this communal experience. They want to go to something. They want to be part of something. And I think hopefully that's a trend.
So could we? I have a few other like specific questions, but before that, could talk a little bit about Sam Stein, your character Sam Stein in The Punisher, for people that haven't checked it out yet. What can they expect from The Punisher without like obviously?
I'm still trying to remain spoiler free for those people who haven't watched it. I think a lot of people are going to watch it over the Christmas holiday. I think a lot of people have it like planned. Mm-hmm. You had the diehard fans who watched it opening weekend apparently froze Netflix which was kind of exciting for us.
The trailer is the great. I'm saying this right now. The trailer with a Metallica song is the best trailer I've ever seen. The way, I'm a big music fan, but when they put the Metallica song with a machine gun, that's the coolest thing ever. I think props to that.
I'm the one who got to say the Punisher in the trailer, so I got to drop the mic in that.
Yeah, but you need to find out who made that trailer, and you have to tell him that I want to give him props, because that's like the best. Like that. That trailer is so good.
Yeah, it must have been. I'm sure they hired a post-production house to do that kind of stuff. I'm sure they have like, I don't know if it's in-house at Netflix. I agree though. It was really cool. People were going crazy for it. So to try to remain spoiler-free, my character Sam Stein in The Punisher, he's a Homeland Security agent who's partners with Dina Madani, who's this new sort of hotshot, kind of doesn't play by the rules Homeland Security agent, been transferred in to the New York office to sort of bury her under paperwork because she's been making a big stink about a lot of things that are going on, and she suspects there's a lot of sort of corruption and bad stuff going on in the department and in that world in general. And I'm sort of the old school guy who's been there a while, kind of was her at one point, and they throw me in to partner with her because they want to just sort of like, push her to the side. And she's after the Punisher because she thinks that he's responsible for the death of her partner and her former partner. And we start to uncover a lot of interesting layers, and we sort of are hot on his trail. And I'm sort of the comic relief and a little bit of the Obi-Wan Kenobi to her Luke Skywalker, as people have said, and kind of doling out advice. And I think more than anything, I represent kind of the straight up sort of humanity in the show, and the sort of, I'm sort of the lovey-dovey warmth and the humor in the show. And
you need that though, right? Even in these serious ones, you always have to have it. And I feel like it's an escape. Like you can't escape it. Like it's gonna happen.
I think I just said lovey-dovey, by the way. It's early, everyone. It's 9:30 in the morning. I just dropped my kids off at school, so I'm a little tired. But I think it's cool. I was very excited about the part. I'll give a little funny behind the scenes thing. I actually auditioned for Micro first.
Oh.
And I think they were looking for someone. I think they were looking to make that part maybe a little bit. They were thinking about, could that be a straight up humorous part? Would that be the sort of comic relief role? And I think they ended up developing the character a little bit differently from the comics. But that was the original role I came in for, because I think if you've read the comics, like that would have been sort of more along the lines of the energy that I brought. And then there was this other character though that just happened to also be kind of on the other side of the table, in the sort of law enforcement side, that sort of Micro character in some way. And I was really excited to sort of be a contrasting sort of energy on the show, and bring that sort of humor and pathos, and again, like, just sort of, there's a lot of serious shit that goes on in that show, and I get to sort of lighten it up, but lighten it up not in a way that's sort of making fun of it, or sort of, it's sort of being like, hey, like almost a reality check, and like using humor as a way to sort of, directly confront a lot of issues and ideas.
Did you see the Punisher movie, the Warzone movie?
Yeah, I've never seen the whole thing. I don't think I've ever. It's the most.
Oh man, it's brutal.
Yeah, it's gross. I'm not a fan of violence. Like, I don't. That, to me, that's a movie for for violence sake. So it's not really my thing.
That was filmed in Montreal. Like, I'm from Montreal, and I was going to school. That was filmed near a college. I've never been to
Montreal. I need some recommendations. My wife and I want to go to Montreal and take a trip. Is it beautiful and amazing? And you guys have great bagels, right?
Oh yeah, we have great bagels. There's great food. Like, the food down there is amazing.
I've heard that. Anyway, that's a side conversation. It's
a good spot. Like, you'll have a good time.
But yeah, they filmed it up there.
Yeah, but it was just, and I don't know, man. Like, I'm a big music guy. The soundtrack for me was the best, because they had like Slipknot, Rise Against, all that stuff was in there, right? Like all the heavy metal.
They were making a genre film. They were making almost like a 70s exploitation style film, like a Tarantino throwback kind of a thing. I think they were just like, they were playing in that sort of Blumhouse kind of world.
Oh yeah.
The action and stuff. So it's not representative. Obviously our show is way more nuanced, and I think, one of the complaints about the show was like, oh, where's the violence? Where's the violence? And I think, the anticipation for the show was like, oh, this is going to be this like brutal
but
show.
it's there.
Oh, it's there, but I think what's great is that we also, we take the time to get to know these characters. Like, it's important to understand the context of this violence, not
Absolutely.
just violence for violence sake. So.
Oh, and you mentioned Blumhouse. Like, man, what a good time for horror movies, though, eh? Can we just talk about that for a second? Like, what a fantastic time the last 2 years.
I was showing Peter my mug before we started. I think this is it backwards? Is everyone looking at this backwards?
Well, they live.
It says they live.
Yeah.
And it says consume on the back. I'm a horror guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of a sci-fi horror guy. And John Carpenter. I went to see John Carpenter live last month with some buddies of mine. And that was awesome. He plays all his music, and they show all his movies behind in clips while he's playing his soundtrack. Yeah, I mean, like, that sort of genre. And Danny McBride and those guys are doing a remake of Halloween with Carpenter.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait for that.
I'm so excited. So, I think Blumhouse is doing great stuff. I mean, Get Out was amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, that kind of, like, I think topical horror movies, stuff that actually has a message and speaks to our...
Oh, yeah.
Our time is just like is brilliant, and we had those like the 70s and 80s. There were a lot of those. They just didn't get their due.
But there's just been, and like Netflix had, there's just, so I had Rachel Matthews came on my show. She was on she was in Happy Death Day, that movie where it was like the Groundhog Day, someone's killing her and she wakes up, and we talked about that. And just the last 2 years, Michael, like the stuff that's out there horror wise, it's like it's becoming unbelievable genre. Like, I don't know if you saw, like, on Netflix, there's so many of these smaller horror movies that you'll watch, and you're like, this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen, man. Like, there's a movie called The Invitation, which is just straight up about a dinner party and the crazy stuff that happens at the dinner party.
I saw something about that. Someone said it was awesome. And
then I just saw one, which was kind of like a play on, like, Home Alone, but a horror called Better Watch Out, which was like, it was crazy.
Yeah. Like, the problem is I got 2 little kids, so it's and my wife doesn't like horror movies. Yeah. So I gotta watch these on my phone, like at night in another room somewhere.
No, sorry to get on top of it. It's just been unbelievable for horror lately.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
I loved it. It had, like, the expectations for it were so high.
I didn't see it.
I never got a chance. But you know what? For me, the expectations for that movie were so high. And I went with our friends, and we bought our tickets way in advance, and we went to the special VIP theater where we had, like, the pull-up, like, the lazy boy chairs, where you can put your feet up, and it exceeded. And
have a clown that jumped out at you, like, that came out from under your seat and grabbed you.
That would be horrible. So, no, it didn't happen. They
had to do, like, a haunted house movie experience. No one's done that yet.
Oh, hey, maybe you guys can do that. Maybe
we should.
Your next project. But yeah, no, we went, and it exceeded expectations, man. Like, for me personally, I was like, this movie's awesome. This is what I wanted. But it's not just like, oh my God, I love the story aspect of it. I think that's why I like about The Punisher too, is the storylines are so powerful with the characters, and all these Marvel shows, Luke Cage, I just find it's not just like action. The storylines are huge, and I think that's where the success is.
You get to know these characters, you identify with them, they become very precious, and that's what's been happening on social media with me and, like, my character. I mean, it's been happening with a lot of characters, but I've just noticed that in terms of my interaction with fans, like how they get to know us. I think because it's different from, like, seeing, let's say, Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk in the Avengers. It's a more reality based kind of Marvel world, and it's also like people are watching it, like, on their phones with their spouses or their friends and on their television, and so there's an intimacy involved in that. And I think we become like part of their family and part of their consciousness, and they the way they reach out on social media is insane, like, and how they really, like, identify with these characters.
I've seen it, like, I'm paying attention of your, like, Twitter, and, like, it's going up, like, every day you're going up more followers and followers. It's like it's a beast that can't be contained.
What's funny about that is I was never really a social media guy. Like, I was always kind of private. I was a working actor for a long time, was on some TV shows, did a lot of movies, did a lot of guest spots, did a lot of theater. Was fine, sort of very, very okay in my anonymity. But I also used to do a lot of commercials and hosting and things. So I think I'm naturally, like, and I also write. And so, like, but for me, like social media was never about. I needed a reason to do it. I needed a reason to sort of like connect with it.
Well,
and
it's
go out.
part of your job as like an actor director. It's part of the job, but that's what I don't think people realize.
Yeah, and I think, well, especially if doing what I do and like being part of this Marvel world, and leading up to sort of the Punisher coming out, like 6 months ago, people were like, you got to get your social media in line. You got to, and also when you have kids, you want to be a little bit careful, and you want to be, you want to have a privacy about your life. You have to sort of keep that balance. But I was kind of excited to explore, what social media could do for me, but do it in the right way, do it in a responsible way. And I think what I did was I always loved Instagram. Like I was always my favorite platform. Facebook was just sort of like, I don't know, kind of feels like all over the map to me. Mm-hmm. Twitter is cool. Like I like Twitter because you can like Mark Hamill messaged me on Twitter. Like I said something about him and then he wrote me this whole amazing message on Twitter. Like Mark Hamill's my childhood hero. I don't think I ever would have had that opportunity to talk to Mark Hamill if it wasn't for Twitter. Also being the Punisher probably helped as well. That being said, I love Instagram and I've always loved Instagram. And you can tell this like really cool story, right? You can curate an image and you can like write this copy for it. And I think it's a great way to like kind of tell a visual story and connect with the fans and connect with your friends, your family in a very interesting kind of intimate way. And I don't know, man. Since the show has come out, I think I want everyone to know, I think very hard about my posts. I don't sort of willy-nilly throw up a post on Instagram or even Twitter. Except for the fake fight I got into with Funko Pop on Twitter about making a Sam Stein Funko because they started teasing me about it. Yeah. And then I was like, stop teasing me. And that became a whole thing. Like that was spur of the moment. Because I can spar with the best of them. But my Instagram is like, I feel like my Instagram, I think of it like this. It's like my campfire. Like I'm like the head counselor. And like you're coming into my summer camp and we're all going down to the beach and sitting around a bonfire and toasting marshmallows and telling stories. Like that's how I treat my Instagram. Yeah. And I respect it, and I respect the fans, and I respect their time and their energy and what they bring to my Instagram. I try to respond to every single person that comments or messages me. I think people are astounded by that. My wife is annoyed by that because it takes up a lot of time. But I truly love it. Like, and people have been so kind. I've gotten the odd sort of like nasty tweet or like whatever, but really not very much. It's been so generous. It's the reason I do this. They're generous of spirit by watching what I do,
your product,
and generous to take their time to reach out to me and tell me what it meant to them. And the least I can do is respond and interact with them because, again, like I told you, like to me, this is a tribe. It's a community. It's a give and take. And I'm a geek and I'm a fan. And like I said, I fanboy out about so many people. Like, when Mark Hamill messaged me on Twitter, I took a picture of it and then I posted that on my Instagram with me with my lightsaber. Like I'm a dork, but I understand what that means to me. And I'm not saying in any way that I am a Mark Hamill to someone else, but people were pointing out to me on social media. They were like, I'm not kidding, man. I get like 100 messages a day from people saying like, thank you for taking the time to respond to us. We rarely get this kind of fan interaction from the folks in the movies and the TV shows. And it really means a lot to everybody. And I feel a responsibility to do that. And I have a project that I'm working on potentially with Marvel, which is kind of interesting, which could continue something like this. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but I just feel like it is my responsibility and it's a responsibility that I love and it's an opportunity. Yeah. And so, I look forward to getting comments and the fan art is so cool. And I love fan art. I mean, I have fan art in my house. Like I love going to cons and buying stuff and talking to artists and things like that. And I try to put up like when people send me fan art of me or I'll put it up immediately. And someone might be an 18-year-old kid in Ohio with 100 followers. If I can give them an opportunity to show their work and maybe they'll get a commission out of it. Maybe I want to help other people and I want to make this a real community and be a part of it. I don't want to just sort of like cash my check and go home.
No, absolutely.
I'm here to stay, and this is a lifelong sort of fan interaction for me. So
we'll wrap up. But thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Yeah.
And until next time, we'll if you ever want to come back on the show, like we'll get it done. But thank you so much. Where can people follow you on Twitter? And social media, what are the handles?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Michael_Nathanson.
Mm-hmm.
Underscore is not spelled out because that would be a really horrendous name. Twitter is M_Nathanson1.
Perfect.
But yeah, on my Twitter, I put my Instagram. On my Instagram, I put my Twitter. So if you want to follow me on one, you'll find me on the other. And
awesome.
All I could say is, hey, other Michael Nathanson, stop taking my name on social media so I can stop using those underscores because it's really annoying.
Yeah, no, the underscore. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. And congrats on all the success with The Punisher. And keep doing your thing, man. It's awesome to see.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And thanks for reaching out. It was fun and happy to come back anytime.
Yeah, of course. So this has been Popternative. Until next time, this is Michael Nathanson and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.